On the 30th of September 2023, Tottenham hosted Liverpool in a Premier League match that would later be decided by the finest of margins. At the time, it looked like just another high-stakes fixture between two teams competing near the top of the table. But in the 34th minute, the match exposed a problem that football still refuses to confront. Luis Diaz broke through and finished calmly. It was a legitimate goal. The defensive line was wrong. The assistant referee flagged offside. VAR checked it, and the goal remained disallowed. On its own, that isn't unusual. Football has always lived with refereeing mistakes. What made this different was what happened next. Within hours, the Premier League released a public statement. They admitted VAR had made what they called a significant human error. They confirmed the goal should have stood, and yet the result of the match did not change. There was no replay, no void, no correction. The league acknowledged the mistake and then moved on. Raises a dangerous question. If football can admit a factual error directly changed a match, but still refuse to correct the outcome, what exactly is being protected? Because this wasn't a judgment call. It wasn't subjective. It wasn't interpretation. It was a confirmed factual mistake. And still, the result stood. To understand why, you have to stop thinking about referees and start thinking about how football actually operates as a business. Modern football is built on finality. Once the final whistle blows, the result becomes permanent. League tables are locked, prize money is distributed, broadcast payments are calculated, European qualification is determined, contracts are triggered, bonuses are activated, and every one of those decisions depends on results being irreversible. Because the moment results become reversible, the system becomes unstable. Void one match, and league positions change. Change league positions, and European qualification changes. Change European qualification, and tens of millions in revenue move instantly. And that's before you even touch sponsorship clauses, player bonuses, or legal claims. That's why leagues treat the idea of voiding matches like a nuclear option. Not because mistakes don't matter, but because correcting one proven mistake creates a precedent that cannot be contained. And Tottenham versus Liverpool is not an isolated case. Football has been here many times before. In 2009, Chelsea faced Barcelona in a Champions League semi-final that became infamous. Chelsea appealed for multiple penalties. None were given. Barcelona advanced on away goals. The match was not replayed. The final went ahead, and the result stood. Despite years of controversy, UEFA never overturned the outcome. Because once a Champions League semi-final is completed, the competition depends on that result remaining intact. Undo it, and the entire tournament structure collapses. The same logic applies at international level. At the 2002 World Cup, Italy were eliminated by host nation South Korea after extra time. Goals were disallowed. A red card changed the balance of the match. The officiating became one of the most controversial episodes in World Cup history. Italy were out. South Korea progressed. And FIFA never overturned the result. There was no replay, no void, no correction. Because once a knockout match ends, the tournament moves forward whether the decisions were right or wrong. Club football hasn't changed either. More recently, Aston Villa found themselves on the wrong side of another irreversible decision, this time in a Champions League qualification race. In a match at Old Trafford, Morgan Rogers appeared to score a legitimate goal with enormous implications for Aston Villa's season. But before the goal could stand, the referee blew the whistle for an apparent foul on the goalkeeper. Replays showed no foul had occurred. However, because the whistle was blown early, VAR was not permitted to intervene under protocol. The goal was disallowed. The decision stood, and the league later described it as human error. But the consequences weren't human. They were financial. Missing out on Champions League qualification affects revenue, recruitment, sponsorship leverage, and long-term planning. One decision, one whistle, one permanent outcome. Different leagues, different competitions, different eras. Same result. The mistake is acknowledged. The damage remains. And that's because football does not prioritize fairness above all else. It prioritizes continuity. Continuity keeps the system functioning. It keeps broadcasters confident. It keeps commercial agreements stable. It keeps leagues out of court. Because if football ever accepted that outcomes could be reversed after admitted errors, it wouldn't just be correcting matches. It would be opening the door to litigation. If a club can prove a factual error cost them qualification, revenue, or survival, that's no longer a football debate. Which brings us to the real question. The issue isn't whether the Tottenham-Liverpool game should have been voided, or whether Chelsea deserved penalties in 2009, or whether Italy were wrongly eliminated in 2002, or whether Aston Villa lost Champions League football through error. The real question is this: could modern football survive if results ever became reversible? Because once continuity breaks, the entire economic model of the sport is exposed. And football knows it. That's why results are protected, even when officiating collapses. If you can think of other moments where a decision changed everything and the result still stood, drop them in the comments. These are not the only cases. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe to the channel. We'll be breaking down many more moments where money matters more than fairness. Thank you for watching. This is Sports Cash Files, where money and sport combine.